There'll be a long shift.
Deep mud, sticky mud, splashy mud, muddy mud. Is that mud? Construction site mud mixed with cement and sand mud. Mud, glorious mud. If your business can't escape it, you'd better embrace it. The new Ford Transit Trail, built for the rough of it. All-wheel drive to get you through the thick of it. A bold Ford grille covered in it. The new all-wheel drive Ford Transit Trail. Get muddy at Ford.co.uk. We're with you on this journey. Ford Commercial Vehicles, backbone of Britain. Visit Ford.co.uk.
New all-wheel drive Transit Trail, part of the Trail range, which includes the Transit Custom with mechanical limited slip differential technology.
James O'Brien on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
10:49 is the time. How did this happen? So Donald Trump's presidency, which was always going to... Well, that's not true. He could have won. This is the astonishing reality, is that without the coronavirus, Donald Trump probably would have won a second term in America. So on the morning where many people thought he had, because the earliest results suggested a surprise victory for him, I think we did a show on a similar theme to this, actually, which is and Kevin, I think, expressed this better than I ever could, is that horrible sense of recognition, of just knowing, what he offers is disgusting, but popular. In a way, that's the definition of populism, isn't it? It's something that's disgusting and largely untrue, but somehow popular. That's why you have two different words. Popular and populism mean different things. So that notion that they now know what he is, and they voted for him again. 70 million people voted for him again, but they know what he is. It's not exactly uplifting, is it? And I do think that last night there was an incredibly narrow escape from something much, much worse. So would there have been Donald Trump without Barack Obama? No. Would Donald Trump have become president without unleashing and legitimizing the most ancient of hatreds? No, probably not. But the environment into which he moved already existed. So a couple of you have pointed out, one of you kind enough to mention that I do know her and like her, Meghan McCain, but her dad, John McCain, he signed up Sarah Palin, didn't he, to be his running mate. And that kind of kick-started or turbocharged the so-called Tea Party movement, which was yet another euphemism for a massive racist organisation. This idea that you are legitimising what you had been told for 20 years was unacceptable, which is where down with political correctness comes in. I might have to start plugging my first book, having spent most of the last few months plugging my second book, but this is all in How to Be Right. Because, of course, I speak to people who've bought it, not the book, the lies, the toxicity, the prejudice, the bigotry, the hatred. I speak to people and unpick where it comes from. So whether I'm asking them about what they mean when they say political correctness, or whether when they say all Muslims should apologise for terrorism, or whether they're talking about Donald Trump and trying to claim that they're not racist, and as you just pull in each thread, that conviction falls apart. It is easy to plot, but what you can never do, if you were like me, perhaps you're better at this, it may be a shortage of empathy or something on my part, I don't think I can ever fully understand the hunger, the desire to be deceived, the desperation to believe that the reason why you don't have all the things you would like to have is because of somebody over there who was born in a different country or was born with different colour skin from you. I don't know that any of us ever get our heads around that. And the big shock for me, as you know, over the last few years, has been to see how deep it goes and how many of us fail to see it. 10:52 is the time. Susan's in Finsbury Park. Susan, how do you explain it?
Right, okay. I don't think there will be a civil war in the United States because it's been going on since the Civil War.
Okay.
I also think Obama didn't bring on Trump. Trump's been on the verge for a long time.
Okay.
We had outrage when Kennedy wanted to become president, a Catholic president, or to be governed by the Pope, coming from the family. That's what they and they did. And then we moved on to civil rights. I heard from my brother, nephews, their racism. It loud in the House, it's quiet elsewhere. In some places, it moves on. We have the civil rights movement. We go on. I can go to the bar with George Bush and have a pint, but I could never go with whoever Dukakis or whoever it was running against him. So it's been coming and coming. Obama was a surprise, I think. Many Americans voted for him, not just Black Americans. We heard something from him that we wanted to hear, and so we voted for him, and that may have been the trigger. And then we get this populist president. We get ruined by George Bush, and so we vote for somebody who is totally different, and I think that's what happened.
It's hard to argue with that analysis, but you did slightly contradict yourself because
okay.
But no, I'd sound like a right old pain in the proverbials now. But because I think what you're saying is I don't think that Trump could have come to power at this point in American history if he hadn't been immediately preceded by Barack Obama. But I'm not suggesting for a minute that the waves that washed him into the White House only came into existence with Barack Obama. It's a bigger picture than that I'm trying to describe.
I think white America, the white Americans who voted for Trump were so come from probably a background to destroy them. I come
Yes.
that was the richest town in the United States. All those companies, Miles Laboratories, a number of companies left the city. It became the poorest. The people were destroyed not by black people, destroyed by white people, but then the white right-wing, Breitbart.
Well, that's what you do. You come and whisper in their ear that don't blame the billionaire plutocrats who've moved production of their company to China or to the Middle East. Blame the Mexicans over there, or blame the I don't know who it is at the moment. Who's in the firing line at the moment most? It's so-called woke people. Is it they're all to blame for the miseries that the bigots endure? What happens next then? Because these people aren't going away. Sarah Palin's already been speaking about forming a new party.
Yes, well, let her. I just let her. I think Joe Biden has come across really well, and he's not my candidate.
No.
But he's come across well in the past few weeks.
The past few hours, actually. He was very statesmanlike last night, wasn't he? And he was in the right place. He came up, he stepped forward, he stepped up.
Yeah, and that's what Americans have been used to. George Bush stepped up over to 11. Others have stepped up. What does Trump do? He does a tweet, and I think
even now, his statement essentially conceding contains a huge lie. He's been removed from Twitter for temporarily, but the lie is the facts bear me out. He says, "I won the election. The facts bear me out." It's quite incredible.
Yeah, it is, and I can't understand why here in England the liars still get by with it, and why in the States the liars get by with it, and it confuses me.
It confuses and frustrates me, but I think one trick to understanding it better is to understand they want to be lied to, because they are given license to blame their whole lives on somebody else. And I used to think that was confined to unfulfilled people, that was confined to unsuccessful people, to unsatisfied people, but it's not, of course, because some of the richest, poshest people in this country were cheerleading for Donald Trump, writing their articles and waving their little flags and talking about how a Donald Trump victory would be good for us. Really, all he ever offered to anybody was a green light to be gross. And some people need that green light to be gross. They love that green light to be gross. And we can sit here and philosophize and quote Freud and look for complicated reasons and sophisticated analyses. But the bottom line is that for many, many millions of people in America and in the United Kingdom, the invitation to just hate foreigners publicly, performatively, and violently is close to irresistible. And Trump seems to have understood that in his bones from pretty much the moment he drew breath. He's obviously a product of his environment and his upbringing as well. But from the moment he stepped onto the public stage, he's had an innate understanding of how hate works. And he was a master at stoking it. And, well, some people suggesting he has now lost his mind. It was reported that people in the White House were saying that last night. But I don't know. I wonder what was there all along. I really do. Susan, thank you. It's an hour down already, believe it or not. 10:58 is the time. We'll continue this conversation after the news. Remember, as I bid farewell to Susan in Finsbury Park, it frees up a phone line for you if you've been trying to get through and failing. The number you need is 0345 6060 973. And many other things now on the list. So obviously Barack Obama is part of the explanation, through no fault of his own. He is part of the reason why America has fallen so fast so far. Sarah Palin and John McCain, obviously, he brought her into the mainstream, where previously, as Kevin and Finchley suggested, we'd succeeded in keeping that sort of toxicity out of the mainstream. That's, I guess, why the people who enjoy the toxicity, who thrive on it, are still whining about having their freedom of speech compromised. You look at other things, the financial crash, the Islamist terrorism that kind of gave a veneer of plausibility to xenophobia and racism. What was one of the first things he did was the Muslim ban, the so-called Muslim ban, of course. And he knew that people loved it, just as he knew he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. I wonder whether those of us who don't have that bigotry built into our personalities can ever fully understand how it works. Well, we'll keep trying. It's 11 o'clock.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation, this is LBC.
From Global's newsroom, Donald Trump has pledged there will be an orderly transition of power after the US Congress formally validated Joe Biden's presidential election victory. It was confirmed by the Vice President Mike Pence this morning.
The announcement of the state of the vote by the President of the Senate shall be deemed a sufficient declaration of the persons elected President and Vice President of the United States, each for the term beginning on the 20th day of January, 2021.
The confirmation paves the way for Joe Biden to take over in just under 2 weeks' time, despite efforts by Donald Trump's supporters. Last night they stormed the Capitol building, smashing windows and confronting police. 4 people died in the violence. Donald Trump did ask them to stop the rioting and return home, but has been accused of inciting that violence in the first place by repeating his claims of election fraud at a rally earlier in the day.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women. You have to show strength and you have to be strong.
More than 50 people have been arrested. The US ambassador to the UK has called for all those who engaged in criminal acts to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. GPs in England have started rolling out the Oxford University AstraZeneca coronavirus vaccine. They're being delivered to sites across the country after a government promised to offer it to almost 14 million people by the middle of next month. The Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, says the only limiting